Welcome to Impact Makers Radio, helping you to find jargon-free information before choosing a professional to help solve your problems and live the life you love. And here's your host, Stuart Andrew Alexander.
Hi and welcome to another Let's Talk Divorce conversation. And during this segment of the show, I have family law attorney Christina McKinnon, owner of MCKINNON Legal in Miramar, Florida. Now, Christina will be talking to you today about surviving the divorce process. Now, that sounds like a very interesting topic. So if you're out there right now and you're looking for jargon-free information before taking on any form of professional help, you may want to stop what you're doing, find a quiet spot where you won't be disturbed, and listen in to what Christina has to share with you today. Now, with that said, she's a very busy lady. It's taken us quite some time for her to get on the show, so let's not keep her waiting a moment longer. Welcome to the show, Christina.
Oh, thank you so very much for having me. It is an honor and a pleasure. I am thrilled to be able to impart additional information to the public so that they can use it in their daily lives.
Perfect. And we are thrilled to have you on the show also. So before we get started, it goes without saying that anything you share during your interview is not any form of legal or therapeutic advice or assistance. It's purely for the purpose of sharing information. Now, would you just spend a short moment to expand on that in your own words so that we're absolutely clear about what we're trying to achieve today here, Christina?
Yes, absolutely. Today is just informational purposes only, as if you were reading online. This is not legal advice. It does not comport to an attorney-client relationship. And, this does not form an agreement between you and I that I have represented you in any capacity. Yes, this is not legal advice from McKinnon Legal to any particular person.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that, Christina. So please, briefly, describe your company, the people who you serve, and the various situations that they find themselves in when they come to you for your help.
Well, McKinnon Legal is a company that helps people consciously uncouple, right? So going through a dissolution of marriage, or if they're not married, they may have a child together. Here in the state of Florida, we call that a paternity action. There might be some custody issues. They may need a parenting plan. We also help people, secure their futures or basically move on, right? So they come to us with a problem where we resolve it and solve it before the court in accordance with the law, the statutory authority given to us by the Florida legislature. And we help them move on in a way that they are not injured by the breakup, by the uncoupling, as you will. Sometimes those matters can be domestic violence matters. I think that bringing healing to a situation doesn't necessarily have to be under the auspices of a divorce or a breakup, but where there's actually an injured party, a victim that may, need to have resources to live a successful life thereafter.
Okay, so Christina, what's one of the most common misconceptions surrounding your industry? Now, I'm sure there are, you and I could sit here all day and speak about misconceptions, but in the interest of time, just please share one or two of the most common misconceptions you come across on a day-to-day basis.
Well, one of them is, I would say, in the field of paternity actions. This is where there is a child resulting from a relationship, but the parties were not married. The most common misconception is that, especially in the state of Florida, is that the father has rights automatically. Now, where the father would have rights if they were married to one another, but if you were never married, it's incumbent upon the father to file a paternity action within the circuit court of their jurisdiction in their county. All right. So if they do not do that, then the mother has all the rights. There's also a guardianship statute that says the mother of any child born out of wedlock is the natural guardian of that child. Basically, it's, mother's baby, father's maybe until the father files the appropriate action. Now, biologically, yes, he may have signed off on the birth certificate. He may have held himself out to the public as the father of this child, and the child has his last name. But legally, in terms of right of access or time sharing or custody of that child, he really doesn't have any rights until the court grants him a parenting plan. So that's sort of, the difference between married parties and unmarried parties that have kids. I think that's a very big misconception. There are lots of young men and older men that come to our office, and they are, oh, she's not letting me see the kid, and, this is my child, and I've raised her for 9 years. Yeah, but, the minute you broke up, that was the time to go and file an action to get a parenting plan put in place, because she can actually do exactly what she's doing. It may not be right, but legally, there's nothing to prevent her from moving to another state if the father never asserted his right. So that's a big misconception. The other misconception would be that, and this is to the profession itself, not necessarily about anything in the law, but, lawyers have a horrible reputation, and I would not say it's justified, because most of the lawyers I know are ethical and law-abiding, but there are some bad apples out there. But, lawyers are, and especially being in private practice, it's not an inexpensive service to employ. So I think the other misconception is that, lawyers are, money hungry or scammers or cheaters and this, that, and the other. However, the complicated issues that I'm presented with in my practice, it may be, the dissolution of a business in a divorce. It may require the use of an expert like a forensic accountant to come in and find assets that may have been dissipated or fraudulently transferred. So a lot of complicated issues do come into play, and some of the cases may yield a high legal bill as a result. So, those types of things where, you see the cost of a particular action, and it may lead one to believe or to misconceive that, lawyers are just out for your money. But, the value that we impart to our clients is certainly important and pertinent to that person's situation. It's the worst day in their life when they come to see me, right? So it's pulling on their heartstrings. It's about their kids. It's about their home. It's about their businesses, their money, and of course, someone that they once loved. So the time and dedication and investigation that we put into the case, is expensive. And I'm not gonna, walk around that issue, but it is very expensive to hire a private lawyer. So to quell that misconception out there that, hey, we just want your money, look at the itemizations that we provide, and a good lawyer will do that, give you periodic billing statements that give you detailed itemizations of the work that they're doing on your behalf. But the other way that I look at it is, hey, the success of a firm and the monetary growth of a firm is directly tied to the number of people that they help. And we've been thankful and blessed to help a great deal of people in the past 18 years that we've been in business.
So, Christina, this sounds almost like an obvious question, but how do people actually benefit from surviving the divorce process?
I think a lot of the benefit is personal, right? If you are in an emotionally draining relationship, everything else is material, right? Your mental health, which could affect your physical health, your self-esteem, your relationship with your children, I think that is paramount. So if you are able to split from a situation that is basically killing you inside, that can birth, I guess, a new direction for you to see light at the end of the tunnel. So that, to me, I think is the best benefit. To me, it may not be to a particular client. Some people value their home. They really value the things or the assets. My personal opinion, and I'm just going to inject my personal opinion here because I'm the one that's giving this podcast, everything can be regained. Money comes and it goes. I think that your individual self-worth and value is most important. So I certainly wouldn't want anybody to be connected to something for the material gain that it brings to your lifestyle. And if they work hard enough and create a plan and take definite steps to accomplishing that plan, they can rebuild it in a few years. So that is the benefit, in my opinion. Most people come to me and they're dejected. They have all these things, the surroundings of maybe luxury or comfort, but they're certainly not comfortable. And, for me to get them to a comfortable place so that they can move on and start anew, that is the benefit.
So if somebody who's listening in right now is in that unfortunate position where they find themselves possibly facing divorce, I think it was quite normal for them to have some fears about the divorce process. And if that's the case then, Christina, what would you say are some of the fears that you see the people who you help on a regular basis? What are some of the fears that they have? And conversely, how can they get past those fears? What do you say about that, Christina?
Right. I mean, the fear is being alone. The fear is how it'll affect their children. The fear could also be if it were a person who had been taken out of the workforce and was a stay-at-home mom and helped them build their career and help the family in every way imaginable, you would understand that fear that after 20, 30 years, now they are on their own and they have to go into the workforce and they've been out of it for a while. So that's a very real fear. But, providing my clients with the resources that are needed, first, number one, getting them what they're entitled to out of the marriage, finding assets that may have been hidden over years. That's very important. But getting the children into whatever counseling, the requisite counseling, individual counseling, family counseling, and requisite therapies that are out there so that they can start anew. So, yeah, those are very real fears. I would say the number one fear is, and what I've dealt with, is the children and how it just tears the children apart because of a split. Right. So, and people stay in marriages that were long done decades ago because of children. And they don't want to disrupt the happiness of their children.
I think it's a good point to bring up the reason why I actually started this show, Impact Makers Radio, and specifically this series, Let's Talk Divorce, because I myself was a child of divorce. This is my motivation behind the show. And my parents had a very volatile relationship. There was lots of fighting, there was lots of violence, there was lots of blood, and all of that unfolded in front of me. And I was 8, 9 years old when that was happening. And when my parents eventually separated, my father moved to the top of the street with his fancy lady. And then there was this ping pong game always going on where my mother used to, let's say when she used to lose a little bit of control, she'd shout and say, "Go to your father," and with a few explicits mixed in between. And then I'd go to my dad and he'd do the same. So I was caught up in the middle of all of this. And with my little self, I had no idea what was going on. All I knew was that I love my mom and I love my dad and they're breaking up. And I blamed myself. I carried the weight of that relationship on my little shoulders. And I carried that throughout my young years, throughout my teenage years. It had a massive effect on my education. It had an impact on the professions that I chose earlier on in life. And it had an impact on the relationships I went into. And it wasn't until I was around 40 years old, Christina, that I realized that the impact of that divorce on me as a little child was affecting the decisions I was making at that particular stage in my life. So that's when I started to look a little bit deeper into it and go to therapy and get some help. It's a very long story, but it's what has inspired me to create this show so that I can invite experts like yourself, divorce-related experts like yourself, to come on and share these insights in the hope that the listener regardless of what situation they find themselves in, and they may be in a relationship where there's, lots of animosity and there's fighting, and they may have every reason to hate each other. But I operate this show under the banner of love your children more than you hate each other right now. And in the hope that the listeners will listen to people like yourself and then choose to act more amicably around their children, choose to communicate in a different way. Because both you and I know that they may think the children don't pick up on every little nuance, but that's not the case. So I like to give what I call the invisible voices. Those are the little children who don't have a voice or didn't have a voice like I didn't. I like to give them that voice through people like yourself, and hopefully that the listeners will learn from that. So from your perspective, with your experience, and Christina, what would you say to anybody who is in that situation? They're uncoupling, or maybe they're sat on the cusp of divorce, and there are children involved, but there's a lot of animosity. What would you say to them in terms of their behavior around the children and the impact it may have on them?
Right, absolutely. I mean, couples don't have to stay in a bad situation, so that's paramount. But the children are watching. They can sense the stress. And like you said, it wasn't until you're 40 years old that you realize what this stems from, and you went and sought some sort of therapy for it. My job is to make sure that the children get in therapy at the onset, right? So that this isn't a 40-year problem that they're dealing with and they're acting out in their lives in every situation. So, that trauma, as we well know, can follow them the rest of their lives. So my cases are fraught with lots of different experts that surround me as the family law attorney, whether, it is an accountant, a therapist, a guardian ad litem for the children to determine their best interest. But, in terms of the parties, them staying together, it does not work, right? So I am a proponent of, living your best life. And your best life can be something other than living in a mini mansion or having, all the throes of success. All of those things can be rebuilt if need be. And people don't realize they marry for the wrong reasons, number one. But the product of a marriage is the children. And that is the best reason to be your best self. So me, as a person, you told a personal story of yourself. Me as a mother, as an attorney, as a wife, I have to make sure that I take care of my mental health, my spiritual health, just my physical health, everything. Otherwise, I wouldn't be the best mother to my daughter. I wouldn't be the best wife to my husband, or I wouldn't be the best attorney to my client. So it all starts with me being in a space where I can operate at the optimal level. And if, God forbid, I'm in a relationship that it does not support that, I have to extract myself from that, because everything else around it will crumble. And most importantly, my daughter will be affected. So, I do think that, I confront this every day in my cases, but this is something that I swear by. This is something that I believe in, and that, I can be the best advocate for people that are similarly situated.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that, Christina. So when it comes to surviving the divorce process, what's a common pitfall or even a mistake that people should avoid, and how can they avoid it?
Okay. I mean, I think first, at the onset, vet your partner. Vet your partner well before you enter into the relationship. Have a long engagement or a long dating period. Do a background check on your partner, certainly before you decide to take that relationship to the next level. If you are going through the divorce process, know what your assets are. Know what your partner is acquiring or incurring, if it is a debt or a liability. All of those things go into play in terms of us getting a thorough review. I mean, we hire private investigators. We do a thorough rundown of all assets and debts with forensic accountants. But, if it's occurred over a long period of time, there's some assets that we may not be able to find. So for the person to really keep, their hand on the pulse of what's going on in their marriage, there are some people that marry and let one party handle the finances, and that's not smart. There's some people that marry and they may have credit cards in separate names, but they are unaware of all of the debt that's being incurred. So if they happen to use a credit card or take out a commercial loan to support the household, let's just say, hey, well, I didn't make enough this month in my commissions, or, hey, I got laid off, so I went and got a credit card so that we could, furnish the place or continue to pay our expenses, that becomes marital debt, right? It's how it's used for a marital purpose. In the state of Florida, we have what we call a tenancy by the entirety, right? So it doesn't matter whose name it's in. If you're married and this is bought or incurred or liability incurred during the marriage or after the date of the marriage, it is your responsibility as well, although it may be in the other person's name. So, people come to me all the time and they say, oh, well, that's in his name and this is in my name. Okay, well, let's look at the statements and see what it was used for. Okay, you can make the argument you didn't know they were taking out this, $50,000 loan or credit card or whatnot. But look at the things that they were purchasing, and you benefited from it. So it was for a marital purpose. So, number one, know who you're marrying. Number two, have a long engagement or dating period. Number three, be involved. You got to be one. That's how Florida looks at you anyway. They look at you as being one with your partner. And you can't live as in the same house for 20 years and then expect the court to think that you didn't benefit from the actions of the other. So that's one of the mistakes that people make. And the consequences of it is that you can be liable for spending that you didn't know was happening. You can also be responsible for so much debt and liability that it cuts into the assets that you're awarded in, and it'll just pretty much offset your overall award in the case.
So you alluded to this general perception of attorneys being money grabbing and trying to elongate the divorce process to gain more money. Tacking on to the back end of that, can you just share one or two perceived obstacles that might prevent someone from seeking the help of a professional like yourself?
I mean, those are some of the perceptions that are out there. I think that the more ethical, law-abiding professionals with good reputations and long-standing business practices can prevent them from falling into those traps. I think the greedy lawyer tropes that are there stemmed from our personal injury profession, calling them ambulance chasers or, money hungry. And it's sort of extended to just about every area of practice. So how would someone overcome that obstacle? And, once again, a thorough vetting of the professional, making sure that they're being provided with periodic billing statements that itemize the work that's being done. If there is something that is disputed, make sure that you timely dispute it. So you can't get through a year's worth of work and then dispute something that was done in month 2 or number 4, right? Work that had already been paid for. And then at the end, when you run out of money, say, oh, well, this work was, whatnot. It is, I wouldn't look at it as an obstacle. I just look at it as more of an effort to do your due diligence as a consumer, right? I look at clients as a consumer, but they're people that we attempt to help. And like I said, the most important thing and measure or stick that I use to measure success is how many people we're helping. So if we've got 500 clients in a particular year, and the year before we only had 200 clients, I would surmise that our firm is a lot more successful this year as opposed to last. So we're helping more people, and what is the outward expression of that is that we'll have a more prosperous firm.
So, Christina, obviously keeping client confidentiality in mind, would you mind sharing an example of how you have helped a client to overcome any of those obstacles or to succeed in gaining the results that they were looking for when they initially reached out to you for your help?
Yeah, absolutely. I had a client once, and this case actually stemmed across several divisions of the court. So, we are marital and family law. So we're in the family division. This was a divorced couple. They had already gotten a divorce before they came to us, or actually the husband came to us. But there was a domestic violence component. So it was in the domestic violence division of the court. And then there was a dependency component. So after the divorce, father was granted an equal time sharing plan. Mother didn't want to abide by it. And mother absconded with the child and left actually to go to the UK. So father was not able to see his daughter.
Go to the Bahamas. Don't go to the UK. Go Bahamas or Jamaica or somewhere warm, tropical. Don't go to the UK. Come on, where's the creativity, woman?
So lo and behold, we had to retrieve the child back from the UK. And when we got here, the time sharing plan, actually there was a motion for contempt in family court, but the time sharing plan ensued, and came the allegations of sexual abuse by the father. And, the Department of Children and Families didn't acknowledge it. There was nothing founded there. Given her behavior, she was just trying to restrict access, and she'd do anything to prevent him from seeing the child. So there's allegation number 1, allegation number 2, and then allegation number 3. There was a different investigator from the Department of Children and Families, and they said, there might be something here. So they opened up a case in the dependency division of the court. So we had the family division, we had the dependency division, and then mom files a domestic violence action on behalf of the child against the father to prevent any further access. So we had 3 different divisions of the court, and we had to try a case in the dependency court so that he didn't get his rights stripped away. Basically, the Department of Children and Families going in and removing him or terminating his rights as a father. So we tried a case on this dependency termination of parental rights matter. We won. He kept his rights. We went back in the family court, and then we got it modified where he's now the majority time-sharing parent, and mom, because of her actions, and this took about 4 years, because of her behavior and the rigmarole that she put this father through, lost, significant access to the child. So that was probably the most memorable case that I have. But, we got a wonderful result for this father. And, all throughout, there were times where he, wanted to give up. There were times where, he felt like he was going to run out of money. And, we worked with him until, he could solicit the funds. But you know what? The best reward was getting his daughter, and getting his daughter even more so than what the court had originally granted.
You know something, Christina? You sound so good. I think I'm going to file for divorce just so I can be your client. How does that sound? No, not recommended.
Listen, the process is not for the faint of heart. And, I like to tell people, don't come to my office to teach somebody a lesson, right? I get a lot of that as well. They just want to, oh, you know what? I went and talked to a lawyer today, or I'm filing for divorce, but they have no intention of going through the process. So they want to show that person, hey, you know what? You better shape up, or, you know, I'm going to divorce you. Don't come to me with that, because when I file for divorce, we're going the distance, right? So, you know, there are lots of times I tell people, and I know you're saying this in jest and we're joking and laughing, but I tell people a lot of times, right? And I tell them, hey, sounds like you're not ready yet. You know what I mean? You know, go to therapy, go to marriage counseling, and, you know, I'm sure you all can work through this issue. And they're almost taken aback and surprised, because I'm the divorce lawyer, but I'm not pushing anybody to divorce court. It is, you know, if you can avoid it, then do so. Certainly, I know more than half of the people in America who are married are ultimately going to get a divorce. We're here for you. We're here to make sure that you get the best results possible. We're here to make sure that the law is followed, and we can uncover anything that's hidden, right? So we're there for that. But I'm not there to just get a case or just to, you know, rush somebody down the, you know, it's like you can rush somebody down the aisle to get married, or rush somebody down the aisle to the judge's chambers to get them divorced. That's not what we're here for.
Okay, so as a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, my guest is family law attorney Christina McKinnon, and who has been addressing the topic of surviving the divorce process. Now then, Christina, you've shared some great insights so far, so I think it's about time to, flip the script, as they say in Hollywood, and talk a little bit about you. So please, I'm ready for it, and I'm sure the listeners are ready for it too. Please tell us a little bit about your backstory, Christina. How did you get started? What led you? What inspired you to become and do what you do today?
Well, you know, I'd have to go all the way back. You know, I've always been that, what do you call, like a star child, you know, the child that sort of, you know, knew what she wanted and she was going to get it, right? So my mom didn't have to really push me or anything. My mom worked a lot. And, you know, she was divorced in the 1970s. And I guess as a product of the women's lib movement, she had 5 minor kids, divorced, and she worked 3 jobs to support them. So she was my role model. If you want to say, you know, I had a role model, it was just somebody who was like, whatever it takes to get it done. Right. So, and she raised 2 lawyers, you know, and, always expected great things, but never really had to push us for anything. My drive was making sure that I was heard, because I was the youngest of 5 kids. So, you know, you can imagine that. Making sure that I was heard, and then making sure, if you could imagine, that my arguments were sound so that I would win the argument. So naturally, I decided that I wanted to be a lawyer. I didn't really know what that meant, but I just felt, hey, I'm good at persuading people. I'm good at speaking. I'm good at making an argument. So everything and every decision that I made was geared towards that. So in middle school, I was the captain of the debate team and captain of the chess team, and went to law school. And I thought I wanted to be a public interest lawyer, basically, you know, helping the less fortunate, social services, things like that. But my last semester in law school, I took a family law clinic, which means that we went out into the real world and saw how it was done. It wasn't just classroom and book knowledge and regurgitate everything you learn on a test at the end of the semester. So we were taught by a general magistrate who took us into the courthouse, and he and his colleagues, other general magistrates, tried mock cases for us. So we were the attorneys that argued in front of these actual jurists. And I loved it, you know, and somehow I loved the drama of it, right? There was an intense problem, and I'm working with real people. So I get out, I actually start doing labor and employment for about a year. And then I decide, oh no, I got to get into the courtroom. And I opened up my own practice with no money, no clients, no nothing. And I get involved in the legal community. I get involved in the community at large, and I start talking to people and letting them know who I am and what I do. And I started getting clients, so I just took it from there. So I didn't start a business with a lot of money. I didn't come from a lot of money, but a strong passion to help people, a strong passion to make sure that I was a strong advocate, a passionate advocate for my clients. And somebody who, and it may sound cliche, but somebody who, had a strong mother who really made an impression on a little girl to do whatever it takes to make it happen. Right. So that's who I am. And that's how I got started in what I'm doing.
So if let's say it's a Monday morning then, Christina, and your alarm clock goes off and you have a full day's work ahead of you serving the clients in your area. How do you feel on a morning like that? After being in the profession for so long, how does Christina McKinnon feel when she has a full day's work ahead of her helping clients?
I think that after 20 years in the business, I feel like I'm a pro at it. So this is what I do. I am not at the point where, I feel like I want to retire yet, but yeah, I'm motivated. I'm motivated by getting good results from my clients. I am also at the point where, we have enough clients, and are acquiring more to the, where I need associate attorneys to work under me. So I do have some attorneys that are in our office. We'll be hiring more as well. So I think that's a good place to be in. So every case wouldn't be handled by me directly in my office at this point. But I think that's also a testament to, how we've grown over the years and the number of clients that actually trust us with their business.
So when a client comes to you, Christina, and they're in, that unfortunate situation of facing divorce, I like to say they're in position A, and then you're the transitionist who helps them to get to point B. So when you've achieved that and you've helped that client to achieve their goal, what does that actually give you? How does that make you feel?
Oh, it's very rewarding. It's what I do. So, it doesn't surprise me, but it's very rewarding. We appreciate our clients so very much. A lot of them, I think they want to become friends afterwards. I understand that it is a professional relationship. But I often get, hey, Ms. McKinnon, after this is all over, let's go out for a drink or whatever.
And that's understandable, isn't it? It's such a crucial stage in their life that you're helping them with. I can understand why people would want to continue that connection with you.
Yeah, it's not just, a legal advocate relationship. It's a personal one, like you said. And I'm not a therapist, but a lot of times it is a lot of hand-holding. We get a lot of, raw emotion, a lot of tears, a lot of, so you just really have to be sensitive to people. So it takes a lot of soft skills as well. But, hey, after mediation is over and we can't settle the case, it's time to try it. Hey, we got the hard skills to go into court and do battle. So, that's what I was praying for. That's what I love. But I've learned to navigate both sides of it.
Okay, Christina, so there are many family law attorneys out there if somebody's looking for assistance. So if that's the case, if there's someone who's evaluating a professional in your field, what should they be looking for?
They should be looking for, like I said before, someone who is tried and tested, has a long history, who has been doing it a sufficient amount of time. I would say, anything over a decade or maybe 15 years in the practice. You certainly don't want a baby lawyer. You should certainly interview that person and ask your question, see what type of strategy that they're going to come out of the consultation with. I would say interview 2 or 3 lawyers, not just one person. I know when I send a referral out, if we're unable to handle a case at the time, or where our price point may be a little too high for a certain individual, we'll refer out in threes. So, the price point may not be working for them. The personality may not work for them. There may be someone with a particular specialization, like relocations or termination of parental rights, those types of specifications. That's what they're known for. So that's how I refer out. I would say anybody that's considering me or any family lawyer, they should also interview 2 or 3 others as well.
So, Christina, is there anything that I may have missed, a question that you feel I should have asked you, or is there anything else that you'd like to add before you share your contact details with our listeners?
No, I think we covered a lot, but, like I said, it's a very personal decision, and, consider it greatly before you start the process of divorce. I like to look at all of my cases surrounding around 3 major problems. It is either a time, money, or a reputation issue. A time issue because it may be a very urgent issue, urgent matter. Hey, somebody's going to take my kid across state lines and I need to act now. It's an emergency. Money, not necessarily the cost of the services, but hey, my circumstances changed and I can't pay this alimony anymore. I need to get my alimony reduced. Or, hey, he's not supporting the kids. So I need to make sure that, my kids have everything they need and that they're provided for. And reputation. So reputation, not necessarily out in the community, what someone is known for, but your reputation with your kids, right? What are my kids going to think of me if I didn't fight hard to have them in my life? Right. So, that gives way to parental alienation. One party can just implant and indoctrinate this kid with whatever they want because the other person just laid down and, hey, I'm not going to fight. I don't want there to be, anymore. No, you really got to the kid can benefit the best with both parents in their lives. So that's sort of how the 3 problems that I find inherent in just about every case that I have. And, it's just a blessing, and I feel honored to be able to help the legal community in this way.
Perfect. So, Christina, finally, how can the listener connect with you, 1? And 2, even more importantly, what happens when they do? And I say more importantly because it's easy just to say, yes, contact me on www.blablabla.com. But people want to know, what's the risk in taking that step of reaching out to you? What's going to happen? I mean, are you going to hit them over the head with a Fred Flintstone club and drag them to the back of your office and steal all the money out of their purse? People want to know. So please go ahead and share your contact details, but also share what's your process in terms of the next step when people reach out to you.
All right. Well, when people reach out to McKinnon Legal, they're going to be the first person they'll talk to is our happiness coordinator, right? They'll run an intake, find out enough about your case to put you on the calendar with our client engagement specialist. That client engagement specialist is going to take you through an hour or so of a consultation and sign you up with the firm. Once you sign up with the firm, you'll have a 2-hour strategizing session with me or one of my associate attorneys. And we'll walk you through the entire process of what our plan is for the case, right? You'll be assigned a paralegal that's assigned to whatever particular attorney that's working on your case. And those are going to be your best friends throughout the duration of the case. So your client experience will be, these are my extended family member, right? So the attorney is going to go to court with you, is going to explain strategy to you. The paralegal will make sure that the attorney is backed up in every way possible. Any questions that you have, you can go straight to that paralegal and get on the attorney's calendar. We're your partners in this process. So whether it's a custody matter, a child support matter, a divorce matter, or, who knows, a prenup or a postnuptial agreement, each person is assigned, I want to say, like an attorney pod to walk them through the process. If this case can be settled, we'll sit down with you and explain our strategy going through the settlement conference. If not, we're preparing for trial at that moment. So at that point, we'll need witnesses from you. We'll go through what those witnesses are going to testify to, what you're going to testify to. We explain to the clients every exhibit that we're going to be using, how they're to answer their questions. Well, not necessarily how they're going to be answering their questions, but what to expect when they're on the stand. And then what the law says. I mean, I think that's most important, right? Here's what the law says. This is what we can and cannot ask for. This is what's reasonable, right? And this is what we're going to go for. Hey, this is dependent on the discretion of the court right here. So we have certain factors that we need to prove. This is what we're going to argue on this factor. We want to be as transparent as possible with the client so that they know they're not having any surprises when we go to court. But most importantly, we'd want them to get on our calendar as soon as possible. As a client, we have a policy of once they call for information or need to give us any new developments, if not that same day, we can schedule you an appointment within 24 hours. Okay, so that's sort of what a client can expect in their journey with McKinnon Legal. And, we're located in South Florida, Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties. We handle cases all throughout. And we can be reached at McKinnon-legal.com, or you can call us directly at 305-416-0045.
So, no Fred Flintstone Club?
No.
Well, at least everybody knows there's absolutely no risk to reach out to you. Boy, oh boy, the time has flown by, Christina. Unfortunately, we are out of time and have to part our merry ways. So let me just remind our listeners one more time that you have been listening to family law attorney Christina McKinnon. Now, thank you so much for sharing so generously with us today, Christina. You have certainly demonstrated that you are a true educator and advocate for your clients' success. So thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. Anytime that there's another topic that you'd like to explore, I am open to making myself available. And once again, I wish you a wonderful holiday season and a great weekend.
Thank you so much for that, my dear. And I'd also like to take a moment to say a big thank you to you. Yes, our listener. Without you, we wouldn't have anybody to talk to and we'd be sat here twiddling our little thumbs. So thank you for taking the time out of your busy day and for joining us on what I can only describe as an insightful and informative conversation with one of the leading family law attorneys in the Miramar, Florida area today. I hope I got that pronunciation correct. Again, her name is Christina McKinnon. Make sure you do check her out, ladies and gentlemen, because after listening to Christina today, I'm absolutely sure that you're going to be in good hands and in a safe place to get started. So that's it. Again, my name is Stuart Andrew Alexander, and we'll be back shortly with some more leading divorce professionals in this, our series of Let's Talk Divorce Conversations. So until then, take care, have a great day, and always remember, love your children more than you hate each other.
Thank you for tuning in to Impact Makers Radio. To listen to all past, present and future industry thought leaders and trendsetters, visit us at impactmakersradio.com.